Well, hey guys, welcome to my channel and welcome to the stream. Welcome to another chapter. Working on that guy right there. That's our Su-57 or Sukhoi 57, 148 scale by Zvezda. We'll run the intro. We'll get into it. No, run the intro. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Alright, we're back guys. So we're going to continue on. Last time we got our pilot all done. He's all done, he's ready to go flying. Got his hand on his stick and yeah, he's all ready to go. So, what's next? We'll look at the instructions and we'll find out what's next, because I think it's time to put him in the fuselage. Let's change the camera so you can see what's going on. Okay. Alright, so with the pilot and the cockpit all done, and we've got our upper fuselage with our little things put in. Remember last time I had to kind of make my own piece that goes in there. That's okay. We've got that done, and that's a reasonable facsimile. That should look pretty good when it's all done and painted and everything like that. It should look fairly convincing. Okay, so we got that done. We got our instrumentation put in, so that is done and ready. Okay, so the next step is to actually put the cockpit into the plane. So again, my coffee's in the way. So we're going to line up the very back here across. This part here is going to go right across the back here. The hole that's in his kind of headrest here and his seat, that hole is going to basically line up with this little block. See that little block there? That's basically going to line up like that. So we kind of just do that and just kind of line it up like that. Okay, and that's what you're going to come up with. Something like that, right? Okay. So, we're going to make sure this is in there. It does line up nice. It's not bad at all. We're going to use a little bit of Tamiya extra thin. And we're going to glue this in. Just kind of hold it like that. A little bit on this corner here. Here. I'm at a point where I think it's just about time that I bought some more extra thin. Just making sure we've got a good hold everywhere. And that ought to do it. Okay, we'll let that dry for a minute and we'll see what's next. We're going to flip the page. Okay. So we'll just set that aside for a minute, let that glue do its thing. And wipe the crap out of my eye. Alright. So, next page. Page 2. Which happens to be mid part of the book. There's really not much to do with this. So, now having talked with my client and asking him what he wants to have on display for this kit, he wants to have all the weapon bays closed. So we're not going to be displaying any of the missiles on the bottom of it. So if you want to see how this all looks when it's all done together, you're going to have to go and watch my previous build on this particular aircraft. I'll put a link down in the description box. You can go check that out. Okay? Because he wants weapon bays closed, which actually comes to the point, before we put our fuselage halves together, I'm going to have to ask him if he wants any weapons displayed on the wings. Because if we're going to be putting weapons on the wings, we need to drill the holes for them. What's a little bit unfortunate is they show you where to drill them on the instructions here, but I'm looking at the wrong part of the fuselage. So hold on a sec. So maybe nothing unfortunate. There might be nothing unfortunate. What might be unfortunate is I'm not paying attention. We got to grab the lower fuselage here. The lower fuselage. And of course, we have to get rid of all this. We got some flashing going on in there and some fun stuff. Even a big piece of flashing right in here. So we're going to get rid of our bracing. We're going to get rid of the flashing here. Let's just kind of trim this out here a little bit. Let's get rid of this. And let's get a flash going on in here too. So we'll trim this off, clean that up. The nice thing about that is he wants landing gear up. He wants to display this thing in flight, and so having all this stuff looking perfect is not as crucial as you would think. So I just need to make sure it's cleaned up so our panels can line up on these. So let's get rid of our bracing here. So get this piece taken out, including the extra flashing. Go. Out you come. I'm just going to cut this in half so it's a little less sticky outy in my garbage. Okay. I don't think I really need to clean up on my nubs. I am going to have to clean them up in order to get the piece to fit in flush. You can't have any nubs proud like this guy here. You don't want proud nubs. No, proud nubs are a bad thing. So let's clean that. Now the nice thing about this kit is they do give you the option. If they didn't give me the option of having the doors closed, then we'd be displaying this with them open. And probably if this was like a Revell kit, you'd definitely only have one option, or a Tallery or whatever. There's not a lot of kits that are going to go to the trouble of providing you with your two options, especially because a lot of times the doors that they design to be open don't fit when you try and close them, which is why they'll offer two versions. Okay, so with that cleaned up, we can take a look at some panels and see what we've got going on here. Okay, so to have the door closed, we've got this great big long piece. So I'm going to see if I can find that. So that is 3A. Let's take a look. Let's find our screws here. Looks like we've got this going on here. We're going to need that one. At least. It's possible that I'm going to need this one. That I have buried at the bottom. find out. Because we have this also. This one is different. So this one is part of the assembly if we're going to actually assemble our pod here. I think what I want to do is assemble this anyway, just so that it gives it a little bit of girth and a little bit of weight on the plane, right? Because you get this thing and it's really light, it's going to feel a little strange. So if I actually have this built up as an actual structure, that's going to add a little bit of structure to this and make it not quite so flexible. Even though putting one panel all the way across here, that's going to do something, but it's still only one little panel. If I actually assemble this part, I think we're going to be doing better. So let's do this. So G11, this is our G tree, right? We got our G tree. Yes, this is our G tree. We're going to go number 11, which obviously is this great big piece here. Okay, I'm just going to quickly change my glasses out here. Do a little swap of the glasses. Okay. So we're going to start off with this. Okay. This is basically I'm going to call it the ceiling. Okay, although it's displayed as the floor, it's really the ceiling. So then we got G 17, 12, 15, and 14. Okay, so that's all these guys here. So here's 12. All these walls. Okay, 12. I'm just going to line them up here with their pictures. And then we've got 17 right beside it here. Okay, 17, where do you go? You go on this end. And then we've got 14 here. "14" goes on this end. And finally we have 15. And 15 goes right there. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So we're going to be, and they don't show it properly. See, they have this, they don't have these tabs in the diagram. Am I supposed to cut these tabs off? That is a really good question. Will this fit if I don't? If I leave that tab on, is this going to fit? Yeah, it's going to fit no problem. I don't think it will interfere with this thing going in, but if it does, we can always just take our nipper and go and cut it off later. So anyway, so that makes it a little bit more difficult which direction this goes in. So all of our little bits here at the bottom, all that detail is right there, so we do have this lined up correctly. So let's put that in there and get some extra thin. Get that guy glued down. Okay. They've got little tiny tabs at the back of them to help keep them straight up and down. So you got a little tab on the bottom there. You guys see those tabs? See the tabs there? Okay. That helps keep these guys straight up and down. Okay. So next one in line is this one, and he's going to face this direction. See all the wall detail? That's going to be facing inside, because technically this is supposed to be inside one weapon pod, right? So just going to hold it there while I put a little glue going along there. There we go. And then we go with number 15 facing the opposite way, because this is another missile pod here. Or I'd say a missile bay, not a pod. Let's make sure that's lined up. Okay. And finally, our last wall. There we go. Okay, so those walls are glued in. That's good. Okay, now we're going to do our side walls going along here. So off the G tree, we're going to G1 and G22. Okay, that's going to be these long ones that go along here and here. So this one is number 1. Let's get this guy off of here. Okay, and then 22. They are left and right specific, so don't get them mixed up. I'm going to put him over here, 22. Okay. So, starting with number 1, we're going to put the tapered end is going to go this way. Okay. Same thing, like this. So the taper is going to be on the upper open side, okay, like this. And you've got a little tabs here and here at the end. And they're all going to line up because you got little tabs here and here. Okay. Now it would be a little bit wise to kind of have it glue, let these things glue solid before actually putting them together, but we're going to be okay. We're just going to make sure our tabs line up like that, and then glue, glue, okay, make sure this is lined up here. At the front, it kind of just lines up at the bottom here. Okay. It should just kind of tab in like that. Just kind of lock in a little bit. You'll notice there's a bit of a gap. There's a hole here at the bottom. Doesn't quite line up perfectly. That's fine. It's not going to matter, right? And whether you have this closed up and you got a perfectly closed gap here, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Okay, you could try and do that, and close it up totally and glue it in if you really wanted to, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter at all. Okay, so there's one wall in, just like that. Okay, nice and easy. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Okay. Let's line it up there first. Get this one kind of lined up there. Okay. Put a little glue. Go. Now, same fashion, we'll work on the back here first. Make sure that tabbed in there. Okay. Just going to hold it for a sec. So it kind of wants to lift off of it, so just hold it for a sec, let the glue do its thing. Let the glue do its magic. There we go. And finally our front. Get that kind of lined up there. There we go. Just holding it for a sec, let the glue do its thing. Add a little more glue here. Now I do feel that it's kind of wanting to touch here and here, just at those 2 points, so I'm going to add a little glue here. Along the floor, where it touches the floor, it just seems to be touching just a little bit, so we'll put it a little bit on there. I see I've got a nub I need to clean up off of here. I might have some fitment issues if I've got nubs proud on this edge here. Right, so the nub there, there, here too. A couple little spots there didn't come off quite that clean. Okay, I think that's good. We're looking good. We're gonna let that sit and that's gonna dry for a little bit, okay? And give that a few minutes to dry. In the meantime, we're gonna go back to this. So what they have here is, if you've got your bay closed, which we're doing, we're gonna grab E12, okay? E12 comes off of our E tree, which is this one. And that's this big long piece here. Okay, so we're going to make sure that our nubs are nice and clean off this before we do anything else. So I like to use the file because, you know, with the knife it's really easy to accidentally carve out too much, and yeah, then you've ruined your nice straight line by having a little bit of a divot where you've removed the nub with the knife. I tend to carve out my nubs sometimes a little too much and ruin my nice straight line on parts, so that's why I like to use a file sometimes, just to make sure they're nice and straight and flat. Maintain the straight edge of my piece. It's feeling pretty good. We'll see how she looks. Sometimes, you know, it's hard to tell what it looks like when you're just looking at the piece by itself, and as soon as you put it in, suddenly you notice your proud nubs that don't look too good. Okay, so we're going to see how this fits. This guy is going to go in here, and you might be thinking, okay, we've got a jagged edge, but this is flat. But it's actually, what happens is this sits just forward of that and just back of that, and it seems like it fits pretty perfectly, but not quite. Have I got it backwards? Maybe. It's possible. It's almost like I'm going to have to glue one end down like that, glue that in, and then kind of work my way down. Feels like I've got some spots where it doesn't want to sit flat. There's a couple of spots along here that are little tabs where are little notches for. See these little guys here? You guys see those? These little notches that are along here. See those little notches that are along there? They're like supposed to be hinges. And they're kind of interfering with this fitting. They do have little notches along there to try and line them up. And they do have an arrow. This tells you which direction it's supposed to go. There you go. That's nice of them. But, like I said, these don't all seem to be lining up all that great. They're pretty close. I think they do line up. It might be these two bigger tabs that are preventing it from sitting flat on there. Because they do have these tabs. They've got these big tabs sticking out here, but there's no notch in this piece for them. So I am going to shave those off. Okay, I'm going to shave these big tabs off. I think they've put them on there as some kind of way to help line it up, but it doesn't seem to be helping. So I'm just going to shave that right off, flush like that. Okay, do the same on this side. Again, being careful not to shave too much. There we go. I think that does it. Now let's take a look. Of course, you've got to go in from the bottom. It does seem to think, yes, although it's not quite, it's just, you know, this thing is like a millimeter too long. Not even, it's half a millimeter too long. So I get it flush, nice and flush up front here. That's great, and that's what we want. We want flat and flush. It's still, it is sticking a little bit proud. It shouldn't be proud, it should be flat. And that's just like that. But if I got that lined up there, and our back is a little too long, it's like they made it a little long. Now I could kind of flex the, if I flex this, if I flex the fuselage, I can get it to pop into where it's supposed to be. But now the fuselage is kind of bent. And that could cause problems later on. So, how do you fix that? Well, if I shave these just a hair, these actually have a little bit of texture on them for some reason. I'm going to shave that down so they're a little flat. This. Also at the same time, I'm putting pressure in this direction along this flat edge. So maybe that'll line up a little better. Okay. So these, you might be able to tell if I get this in the right angle. You can see how these things, these edges have a little bit of a, they're tapered. Get it in the right light, you can see that. See how they're tapered? So what I did on the back is I just filed them down so they're more flat, like that. Because, well, really, this is flat in here almost. They kind of looks like they tried to do a bit of a taper, but it's not nearly as much as what this is on this part. So let's see how that looks. And that's why this kind of is, it's fighting me a little bit to fit flat. This one's still, it's a little better. It still wants to sit a little bit high. Notice there, our line, if I were to put a ruler along here, this wouldn't be, this kind of bows out just a little bit here. And that is no fault of mine. That's just the way they've carved this out. Okay, now the other thing I'm going to do the same treatment on the front here. I'm going to flatten these out a little bit. Just because it feels like it's fighting me a little bit to fit down flat. And I don't want to fight it. So I'm going to flatten these out a little bit. Take some of that mountain peak texture away. Well guys, I didn't realize this, but I wound up, for some reason I was getting dropped frame rates on my stream, and it stopped recording and stopped doing it, and I had no idea. I wasn't even looking at the button to see that it was red and recording. So I wound up doing a whole bunch of stuff here, and you guys didn't get to see it. So unfortunately, we have our intake our intakes assembled, and you guys didn't get to see it. I apologize for that. So I'm just going to kind of recap a little bit here. We get our two halves of our intakes assembled. Okay, that's parts numbers 22 and 23 off of the E tree. Put those two together. We get C8, which is the fan for the intake. Put that in on the cap as a cap, and then we take F5 and we put this little funny piece on right there. I'm going to change the camera so you can get a little bit closer look. I really apologize, you guys didn't get to see the actual assembly of this. So there we go. Two halves here with our cap on the end. This funny looking piece, F5 and F6, left and right, just kind of sits down on top there, and then you just kind of glue it. And we also have our little cap here, E38 and 39, left and right. I have it clamped right here, just so that it sits flush in there, right? So we got it. This is a nice flush fit here, and this will be a nice flush fit through here on this side and the inside of our intakes. But that's our two intakes like this, right? Kind of like that. That's what they're going to look like. Those are done. And I've gone ahead and I'm slowly working my way back on this guy to get this guy glued in so that he's nice and flat. I have to do bit by bit on him because he just wants to sit. He wants to stick up, and that's not right. He's not right, so I gotta just keep on working my way back on that guy. What I'm gonna do now, it's unfortunate that a big section of assembly wound up not actually getting recorded. That really sucks. So, but I guess that means I get to continue on a little bit. Just going to hold this a little bit for a minute here while I have a sip of coffee. To get it to fit flush in the back here, I am going to bend the fuselage just a little bit. I'm going to flex it just so that it sits, because it's a little bit proud. You might catch the right light, you might be able to see it, how that's sticking up just a little tiny bit. And I don't want to have to really file it down or anything like that to get it to fit flush, but if I just kind of bend this down like this a little bit, it should fit a little bit more flush. I just press on it like that and hold it. I might be able to put a clamp there. Let's try that. Let's try a clamp. Clamp's not really going to do anything because it's not putting a clamp. I'm basically just, I might as well put a clamp right here like that. That's basically what I'm doing if I put a clamp on there. It's not really doing anything. I literally have to just hold it with my fingers. Edges. It should do the trick. Just a little proud. I think when I go to, if I sand it down a little bit with a little sandpaper, I can take the edge off of that without really any detrimental effects. But I think we're good. Seems to be a nice flush fit now, sitting flat, except of course that little edge just needs to be flattened out a little bit, and other than that it looks pretty good. Unfortunately, when you have it so tight like that, it kind of eliminates any panel line, and then when you go to do some weathering, it's going to just be a harsh line there and not like an actual scribed line. And the panel line they have for the line that's supposed to separate them, that's really super shallow. So maybe when it's all glued and done, I might scribe that line again just to make it a little deeper, just so you can tell it actually is two panels. Okay. So with that done, I believe my intakes are finished. I can take my clamps off of them and put my clamps away. So I just put them up on here on my mic stand. There we go. So there's our intakes. So I think this is good enough and it's going to hold. So like I had mentioned before, we have our weapon bay that's supposed to go in, and she's going to go in like this. Now, like I mentioned before, it's just the only reason I want to put this in here at all is just to add a little bit of structure to the bottom fuselage. That's literally the only reason. She's a bit of a tight fit, so I think I have it backwards. I believe that the tapered edge needs to go towards the back. And yes, I'm right. They're doing it. They're showing you in the picture here. The tapered edge, that needs to go at the back. And it does line up nicely there. So, with that being said, I'm going to put some glue here and here, and then we're going to glue it down. don't know if we got glue going on in them or if we got contact in the middle, but just in case, put it on the middle ribs too. Hold that for a sec. Just a little bit of weight on there. Now this is where now this is where the clamp might work. Because now with the clamps on there, it might actually hold it. Clamp on the front and the back. That. Go. Now our sidewalls are not touching very much. They are touching a little bit, so I'm going to glue those ends. As best as I can. It's just because I want to get some rigidity in there. A little bit of extra glue in there just to help it out. This wall doesn't seem to be sitting very flush at all. At least in that spot, I've got a little bit of a gap. Okay, so that's in. Our weapon pod is in, even though you're not going to see the weapon pod. Like I said, I just done it solely for the purpose of adding just some rigidity to the center of the plane. And that's really all I did that for. And it's going to add a little bit of weight too, but yeah. Okay, intakes need to go in. Now, like I mentioned before, these are part of your actual landing gear bays, and then this part is going to go in there too. So they have it, this is actually the top of the plane, so this is supposed to go in. And how are we going to line this up? How does this line up? They show your cap here going right at the very back, so it looks like we've got kind of a flat spot here. It looks like it's going to go in right here. But I got to get the correct side. So let's try this side. Again, flat spot here. Let's get that lined up. There's not much of a channel for it to go in. There we go. They're not really showing me if there's supposed to be a gap. And of course, you know, it's been a long time since I built this plane, so I'm not sure. It looks like this is supposed to drop down in further. So we've got a little notch right there where my thumbnail is. Or here, I'll show you my big ugly fingernail. There's that notch right there. See that notch? I think that's supposed to go in on that tab. And this guy's, there we go. Slide that in through underneath. And then all of a sudden she fits nicely. All of a sudden she fits nicely. How about that? Doesn't that look nice? Yes. Yes, that looks nice. And our little bay door bay almost lines up perfectly there. And we've got a big gap at the back, but I'm sure that doesn't matter. Just like that, guys. Okay, so let's pull this back out. I'm going to slather some glue on our little slot here and on here. Just like that, and like that. And slide this back in. Okay. Slide that back underneath like this until we get to that sweet spot. Just like that. And set her down. Just like that. Okay. So we've got some contact up here. We can do that to help that out. We've got a little tab down here too. We have a tab that's on the actual fuselage. That's lining up to a little notch that's in the top there. So we can kind of line that up also. Okay, and that's going to help with the angle, proper angle and stuff like that. So let's just do that, holding it there. We're going to put a little glue there, and we're going to go along under here. Any contact with our thing is going to help there. Okay, we'll just hold that for a minute, let it do its thing. Might have some contact along here, maybe. That's possible. So we can put some glue in along there. Where am I doing it? I'm doing it right along this edge here. Okay. Any spot we got contact, that's what I want to hold. And since I'm here, I could put a clamp on there and hold that, so I don't have to hold it for 5 minutes. The clamp can do the job for me. There we go. And that allows me to move on to the other side. So I'll just do 2 quick test fit. Again, let's slide this down underneath here. Okay, I was trying to just do it like this because that's how it shows. Boink! But they do kind of show the one line. Well, the one line here going zip, 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 like that, right? And then the arrow showing it goes in underneath. So that's what you do. You kind of slide it in underneath, like that. Okay, but I have it upside down. So again, correct way. Slide that in underneath. Line it up with that tab, go, and yeah, we're going to fit just as well on this side. The fit is just as good. Okay, so same fashion as before. A little bit of glue on there and on here. Slide underneath, line up the tab, just like that, and that's done. I'm going to grab a clamp, hold that, there we go, and that lets me glue the other spots. This. There. And over here. In fairness, that spot just kind of feels like it's touching. I don't know if it actually is. The same back here. Might be touching that wall. And anywhere that I can get glue in there to make it stick better, to hold better, to hold longer, that's what I'm going to do. All right. And that's what we got, guys. Intakes in. Just making sure everywhere where we've got contact, I'm going to get some glue on there. There we go. Okay. We're assembled. Just like the Avengers. Which makes this page, I think this page is done, except of course for our holes. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to have to ask my client if he wants any weapons on the actual wings. So we'll find that, we'll figure that out later. Okay? So, next page, we've got our actual panels that are going to cover the intakes, but with all my clamps and everything, I have to let that sit and let that go. Our exhaust nozzles, well, they're a unique thing all on their own, so I'm going to have to get out the airbrush. Maybe we'll do that next time. We'll work on our exhaust nozzles next time. We'll show you guys the painting process for those, but that'll be next time. Okay, guys? So, like I said, guys, again, I apologize for not having the actual camera running when I assembled the intakes, but I wasn't even looking at the screen. I was focusing on building them, right? I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to thank you for your support. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you go down and hit that subscribe button down below. Hit the like button too, and leave a comment if you feel like it. Down in the description box, I'll put up like I said earlier, I'll put up a link to my previous build, so you can see how all the missile bays go together and all that, and all the landing gear. Because this particular build, all those bays are going to be closed. So if you want to know how to assemble all that stuff, you can watch my other build on this exact plane. Okay. And yeah, check out my other links down there. You've got Instagram, Twitch, X channel, all that stuff. Thanks again for your support, guys, and we'll see you all in the next one.